Well, welcome
All
to
right.
our new global media talk show. Today is February 23rd, 2025. So today our topic gonna be about the BAC 28 million disbursement. BAC 28 million disbursement. We have our guest here, Saikou Jeng, Economics. Saikou, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Sawaneh, for having me.
And I have my co-host here, Ousman. Ousman, who is hosting another program on Wednesdays. Ousman, welcome to the show. Ousman Camara.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Mr. Sawaneh. And of course, thank you so very much, Mr. Jeng. And welcome to New Global Media. And of course, today we were looking at Brikama Area Council, the 28 million disbursement to the 28 wards. So Mr. Jeng will take us through some of the economic advices and some of the economic implications as far as the distributions or the disbursement of the 28 million is concerned. Mr. Jeng, the show is
Yes.
yours, so you will actually take us through basically. Mr. Jeng, Mr. Sawane, that is the topic for today. Mr. Jeng will take us through the disbursement of the 28 million to the 28 wards that are actually under the Brikama Area Council. Mr. Sawane, over to you now.
Thank you so much, Usman, and thank you again, Mr. Sekou Jeng. Back to the show again. Now the floor is yours. We can and we'll be asking questions as we go along.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you so very
thank
much,
you,
Mr.
thank you,
Proceed,
Mr.
Mr.
Sawaneh
Mr.
and
Mr.
Mr. Camara, for having me here. And it's a pleasure discussing issues of economic development, issues of socio-economic well-being. And I'm happy today to engage you or for us to have a discussion regarding the 28 million that has been announced as an allocation to 28 wards in the Brikama Area Council. Um, First of all, I think I have to commend the chairman of Brikama Area Council, that is Yankuba Dabo, and his executive for championing this development initiative. And this is not the first time they have done it. They have done it in 2024, if I can recall very well, just a year ago, in February 2024, they allocated 14 million dollars to the 28 wards, which was about 500, well, 500,000 for each ward. So now what we are
That's correct.
seeing is an improved version of that allocation, taking it to 28 million, 100% increment from the previous subvention towards or allocation towards for ward development. I think this is a good initiative. It promotes development and socio-economic well-being, consumer welfare, and so many other initiatives in communities. Now, a good example would be even in my community, that is Jambanje, we happen to be beneficiaries, and I think if I didn't forget, 250,000 of the 500 that was allocated to the Sanyang ward councillor was actually spent in Jambanjeli for building a bakery. That is a bakery that is going to be under the care of the VDC, supplying bread and ensuring that the cost of bread is affordable. I think the bakery is going to be commissioned very soon, if it is not already commissioned, and it will be, competing with other bakeries in the community in terms of supplying bread to shops and ensuring that bread is available to members of the community at a reasonable price. And a nearby community as well, which is Nema Fulakunda, also benefited from the previous initiative. And I think they had a market which was just inaugurated about a week ago. I think it's a laudable initiative that we need to appreciate as residents of West Coast region, and also thank the chairman for what he has done. There are so many things that actually need to be taken care of. But overall, I think the move towards bringing development to the footstep of people is something that I support, and I'm a pro people development initiative individual. So that is it for now, I think, as far as the disbursement is concerned. But along the line, we will discuss one or two things about these fund allocations probably the mechanisms that are in place and what probably could have been done better. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much,
Go ahead,
Mr.
Mr. Ousmane.
Mr. Jeng. Thank you, Mr. Jeng. Thank you so very much for the brief introduction into the topic. We understand that this is your second program with us, and we also understand the importance of this 28 million
Yeah.
to the people of West Coast, and you have
Yeah.
cited typical importance of how beneficial it will be. Now, my first question that I would like you to discuss with us is the issue of the implementation area. Okay, how are the awards going to be now? Last year in 2024, it was like, for of course, you said 14 million, which of course each ward receive about 500, or like 500,000. Okay, now this time around, each ward receive 1 million. Now, in terms of implementations, what do you think will be the strategic issues that councillors should consider? Because remember, the last time other community benefited. This time around, what do you think? Is it that they still have to go back and then look at the areas, or go back and reinvest in the area or communities that have benefited from the 500,000, or they ought to look at something different? What do you think should be the step going forward in the first area of implementations?
So thank you very much, Mr. Camara, for this question. And I think it's one of the most important questions probably we're going to discuss in this program. But you see, when you want to bring development to the people, you need to know what they want. And that is only feasible if those in authority are able to conduct scientific assessment of the communities that they want to support, knowing what they need, what their priorities are, and then they will identify the areas of intervention. But first, the initial 14 million that was disbursed should have been some sort of a pilot project for the council in order for them to gather more facts, more insights about the implementation procedure. Now, I'm not very sure, but my strongest belief, and according to most of the reports that I have seen, is that the monies that are spent are actually handed over to the ward councillors, and those ward councillors are going to implement those projects. So, in my view, this is not an ideal thing to do, in fact, in the first place. What should have been done in the first place is the council should tax its ward councillors to go to their wards and speak to communities, all the communities involved, speak to them about what their needs are. Socio-economically, what do they need? How do they want the council to intervene in terms of their socio-economic development? And these things should be identified in line with the mandate of the local government authorities. Once this is done, then the council, through its ward councillors, would identify which communities are in dire need, of an intervention and what particular interventions are required, and then those will be put into consideration and be given priority. Once that is done, then the implementation part becomes the job of the council itself. What I mean by the job of the council itself, the council should be able to float out tenders for all the areas of intervention, asking people, if they cannot conduct it from their manpower within, asking for contractors or interested persons to actually tender bids in order to perform those functions that the council want to perform in the particular wards. But again, we have to remember, each ward has a limited allocation. So when we recognize that, let's say the Sanya ward has an allocation of 500,000, let's say Gunjur ward has an allocation of 500,000, then whatever projects or interventions they're going to do will be within that 500,000 limitation, within that threshold. But the funds wouldn't be given to the ward councillors. The funds will be kept with the Brikama Area Council, and people are contracted to perform functions. The Brikama Area Council will now be able to supervise what is happening and generate reports, wherein at the completion of these contracts, they'll be able to submit or publish substantive reports to the public, for verification purposes and even for audit purposes where audit actions are necessary. So the implementation for me actually isn't something that has been done in the best way, if you ask me, because Ousman, we all have to be honest. This is the Gambia, and we know when money moves from one hand to the other, there's a tendency that some amount is going to leak from the space between the fingers somewhere along the line. When you give me 100,000, I put it in my pocket. If I need to pull it out, I may pull out 90,000, and I'll deliberately leave the 10,000 in my pocket, handing it over to the next person. He would hand over 80,000. I'm not insinuating that this is what is happening, but of course, if you look at the trajectory or some element of history in how contracts are handled, if people are very honest, they will tell you this has been a situation. And I have worked in commercial banking. I've been gone to different sites to supervise contracts that are funded by international donors, contracts that are funded by even the government. And sometimes you wonder if what is on the ground actually is what the money given represents, or whether that what is on the ground represents the amount of money that is named in terms of that particular project. So I feel the implementation part of handling the money specifically will defeat, the purpose of optimality, because if you're giving me 90,000 to spend, or let's say 500,000 to spend, and then all of a sudden, all what you want is for me to give you a pictorial evidence, you want me to give you a handwritten report probably, and there's no direct contractor who is assigned by the Brikama Area Council, but the ward councillor would have to engage communities and probably, they have to engage their local contractors. Then there is a question of transparency and accountability involved in the implementation procedure. And this is what I have a problem with. I don't have a problem with allocating money towards. In fact, I think it's remarkable that Yankuba Dabo and his administration actually are doing this. And I want other councils, area councils to emulate him, but I want it to be done in a better way. Now, going back to the initial 14 million being a pilot project, what I would have expected to be done is the council would generate sufficient or adequate reports of what has happened with the $14 million allocation to the wards, what setbacks they have encountered, what administrative flaws, operational flaws, implementation lapses they have encountered, and what successes they have registered in the implementation of those funds. And then we will also know the specifics as far as using the money is concerned, on what items the money is concerned. The specifications are actually important. So that way, the public is being informed that the monies that the council is collecting from them, because this is taxpayers' money, is being used optimally, used for the right purpose, but not only for the right purpose, used in the right way. Because there are differences between using money for the right purpose and using it in the right way. And the two need to go together if we have to achieve the results. So using the money for the right purpose is identifying what needs to be done and doing that. But whether you are actually using the entire money for that particular purpose, then that's where we need to get the details. Unfortunately, the Brikama Area Council, through its chairman or office of the chairman, actually announced allocating the 28 million to the 28 wards in West Coast without giving the public a report of the 14 million. That was a very big administrative mistake, a flaw that I think shouldn't have happened. If you have taken taxpayers' money, this is not money coming from the pockets of the chairman or whoever is there, or even from the ward councillors. This is money that has been collected from you, myself, and anyone else in Brikama Area Council, and then it's being plowed back based on the Local Government Act. It's being plowed back to the public. So therefore, if you use 14 million, give us a report, allow for feedbacks, and then you'll be able to reorganize the next disbursement. But this is not what happened. What happened was they allocated the 28 million to the 28 wards, and then there were questions. Particularly myself, I was on social media and I asked questions. I said, why would you go ahead to allocate 28 million when you have already given a 14 million for which you did not report back to the public? This is unfair to the public. They need to know where the monies have gone to. 2 days later, I saw a report on the Brikama Area Council Facebook page. But I will call it a report because that's how they call it. But this was just a photo album of the activities or photo album of the development projects that they said have been taken up or have been completed through the intervention, the $14 million intervention. But what I would expect was a detailed, well-documented report that would be accessible on the Brikama Area Council website or even on their social media pages, as well as on the local government website. That's the local government authority. They have a website, I'm not sure. But if they have, that report should be there, and then the public would be able to go through it and see what has been achieved, what has been done, what probably could have been done better, criticize it, criticize it in a constructive manner, from which the Brikama Area Council administration will collect feedbacks, and that will help them implement the 28 million in a more optimal and socially, responsive manner. So that's just what I have, the implementation. But if you want to shed light, or whether you or Mr. Sawaneh, whoever has something that you want to add to that, we could discuss further.
Yes. Before Ousman comes in, I just want to shed the light on different areas that you've touched. The 14 million that was allocated, the report hasn't been done on that. While they went ahead and then distributed the 28 millions. That is definitely a leadership failure. That is what we call, lack of transparency and lack of accountability, because wherever money is disbursed to, that records need to be clarified. It should be a public information. So I don't know. Absolutely. Even in Gambia, they have a public record system, because anything that has to do with politics or public funds, there should be a place where people account for, how those monies are been spent. So if nobody has any information about that, then there's no physical transparency in that process. So they shouldn't go ahead and did the 28 million. So somebody should have hold this council accountable for what had transpired. So that's one thing. And number two, have there been any notable outcome of where this money was spent? Like something that could be documented, something that is physically could be identified as this is the outcome of the 28 millions. Is there anything like that that could be shown as a proof?
So, like I said earlier, in Jambanjeli, for example, in my community and a nearby community, Nema Fulakunda, there are physical structures that have been built. And according to information that I got, I haven't seen any documentary proof. That is, the ward councillor gave $250,000 to the village development committee of Jambanjeli for the construction of the bakery. I have gone to the site. I have seen the bakery myself. What I cannot ascertain is whether 250,000 was spent on it or not, and this would only be justified, or this could only be ascertained if there was a substantive report from the ward councillor to the Brikama Area Council administration, who will later incorporate this into a report, a full-fledged report of the activities that were undertaken through the allocation of the 14 million to the wards. But again, like I said, what we saw after 2 days of criticism, what we saw is a photo album which they labeled, the Brikama Area Council labeled as a report, but these were just screenshots of probably a report showing pictures of boreholes, showing pictures of fences, garden fences, football field fences, I want to believe, and also pictures of those structures indicating that this is what has been built. It said, okay, this is the amount allocated, this is the amount spent, and there's a balance of somewhere, I think I saw 73,000, somewhere 40 something thousand, if I'm not mistaken. But again, this is not what you call a report. If you ask me, I have written reports from site visits that I have conducted, and these reports are actually, in line with work plans, in line with the budget allocations, and in line with specifications that are stated in the contracts. The necessary details, the smallest detail of a particular contract would be required, or the report would entail the specific details that were highlighted in the contract even before it was implemented. So if you ask me, I'll tell you, this is not yet a report, because, for example, if you tell me a borehole was sponsored in, let's say, in Sanyang, and I'm not saying there was a borehole in Sanyang, but for example, if you tell me a borehole was sponsored in Sanyang, and this cost us $150,000, we have spent 150. There's a balance of, let's say, 350 that was allocated for Sanyang. Then you go to another place and tell me there's a borehole and we spent 250,000. That is not adding up to me. What is adding up, or what is going to make sense to me, if you tell me this borehole was sponsored with $150,000, and then tell me, okay, the tank is a 3,000 liter tank, the metals are of this specification, that is the metal stand, the machine in it is, is a solar or electricity generator, and it costs this, in your report, that way, I will know if there's a difference between one borehole and the other in terms of the cost. I will know probably it's because of the volumes of the tank, or probably it's because of the type of machines that have been used, or even probably because of the contractor involved. But if you give me a scanty report that says a borehole here, a fence there, a bakery there, we have spent 250,000, for example, on a borehole, the public needs to know the specifications, the specificities of that particular expenditure. We need to know. It's our right to know, I strongly believe. So therefore, I'm not quite convinced the report was adequate, and I think they should do better to ensure that we get the right information for public consumption. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Ousman, do you have a question? Ousman, are you there? All right.
I think Ousman,
So, I think he muted for a bit. Now, in terms of this thing, this expenses,
yeah.
the chairman, Yankuba Dabo, how effective is he in making sure that he follow up measures to make sure that there is accountability and transparency in this thing? Has it been on top of the council, or is it that he's also lacking when it comes to his leadership to make sure that people are enlightening about this process, the whole entire thing?
So just before answering your question, I'll just take us back a little bit. Now, when Yankuba Dabo came into office, he branded himself as an anti-corruption champion, and he reported that the council was running at a deficit of 10 million, but through anti-corruption interventions, the following year in 2024, they were able to make about $25 million. So he believed that his stance against corruption was actually the reason why they were able to go that far. So if you brand yourself as an anti-corruption activist or somebody who definitely does not tolerate corruption one bit, you have zero tolerance for corruption, I think you shouldn't also be involved in any scheme that opens up a clear window for corruption to be practiced. Now, I
Exactly.
don't know to what extent Yankuba Dabo is, holding these councillors accountable. And politics is involved because these ward councillors, a majority of them, actually, I think 18 of them are in the same political party with Yankuba Dabo. But that's not even important to me. Now, what is important to me is what control procedures have been put in place. And unfortunately, only their report probably would have given us what control measures they have given or they have implemented in administering the 14 million. But apparently, it seems that the controls are weak because money is being disbursed or given to the wards just like that. Well, I haven't seen anywhere where it's stated otherwise. I have seen a pictorial evidence where a check was drawn and said, okay, 1 million awarded to a particular ward and all that, some graphics and all that. So I want to believe that his stance here, in fact, for the fact that money is being given to the ward councillors and the contracts, there are no contracts floated at the level of council for contractors to bid and be successful bidders in order to implement those projects. I think that is a huge administrative flaw that they need to check. But apart from that, like I said, I commend the interventions. They are good. I think we need them. We need a lot of other area councils to implement the same thing that Yankuba is doing. But of course, the element of transparency shouldn't be compromised for anyone. There should be full accountability. There should be a transparent route, having a very short, chain of accountability rather than trying to create a longer chain where the council gives money to ward councillors give the money to VDC chairman or VDC, committees, and then those will also implement through the contractors they hired. The chain of accountability is long. And anytime there is a longer chain, then that means, transparency wouldn't be efficient. So this is my view on that or my take on that. I think it should be a
Mr.
better.
Sawaneh, yes,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
thank you so very much. Mr. Jeng, where I wanted to actually ask the issue of the report, I want to suggest that they have actually sent in their report, but the report didn't come public. Because I could recall when you wrote on your page, on your wall, on Facebook, then the next day or in the next few hours, then reports were posted on their Facebook, page,
Yeah.
indicating that, perhaps indicating that they have
Yeah.
reported to the council, but
Yeah.
perhaps the council failed to officially report to the public on the issue of the report of the 14 million that they have disposed in 2024. That is my suggestion. What do you think?
So even if the ward councillors have reported back to council, we may not know. Or even if we know, the ward councillors are supposed to report to the chairman and his administration over there. What the public wants to know is that where the Brikama area council has prepared a detailed report of the allocation. Because remember, these funds are not allocated by the ward councillors, they are allocated to them by the administration of Brikama area council. So therefore, if they are able to report that they are giving out money, then they should be able to report back to us that they have implemented the interventions for which the money was given, and here are the details for the public to consume. So, in fact, what they did wasn't an adequate report. I wouldn't, qualify that as a report, but I had to say it is a report because at least, they labeled it so. They said they were giving us a report. But if you go right now on the Brikama Area Council Facebook page, I think, watch about 24 hours ago or 2 days ago. What you will see is a screenshot of a purported document that they just updated on their Facebook page. That is not a report. That is, I call that a photo album of activities. They should have done a documented one, probably in PDF format, via a link that is, accessible to us, accessible to people who are interested in reading about their intervention, and then they will criticize and give feedbacks. Whether they do it secretly, whether they do it publicly, it should be there. And again, another element is that the report, or what they called a report, and that is what they posted on their Facebook page, does not give you all the specifics. The details are not there. In fact, somebody told me for him it was just enough if they say a borehole is a borehole. I said, well, that's fine. But for somebody who wants accountability and transparency, when you tell me about a borehole, I want to know the nitty-gritties involved in your definition of constructing a borehole for a particular community, because this is important for us for holding the people in authority accountable. So I think, if you ask me, they could have done better. And in fact, they shouldn't have in the first place.
I think he's frozen for some reason. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
perhaps is the connection. I think that's what is failing him currently. But I think he's actually looking at a very important topic for the people of West Coast. He's one of the very,
Okay, he's
all
back.
right,
Yeah.
Mr. Jeng is
I am
back.
back,
Mr.
yeah.
Jeng, before we proceed one more time, let's look at the issue of the representations. Now, all these councillors, they have what you call community reps in each
Yeah,
of the ward councils. You understand?
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
I don't know what is the connection, or what is the connection between the representatives from the communities to the councillor's office. You understand?
yeah,
So, if, for example, you send me on behalf of the people of, let's say, Berending, or the people of Khartoum, to say you
yeah,
are going to represent us to our councillor.
yeah.
Now, what are their functions? Sometimes I doubt. Do you know the representative, okay, or the guy representing you at your councillor, Mr. Jang? Because that's where I have a problem.
So I think I'm also guilty of this, because I don't even know who is representing my community, at the level of the ward. But whether there is even an organized representation where you have a ward development community or a ward committee that supports the ward councillor, I'm not really sure, but I think there should be one. And if there is one, the communities that they are representing should be able to reach out to them and tell them, hey, can you please speak to my ward councillor about A, B, C, and D? Or they themselves should be able to do consultations with their communities to identify their needs and areas of intervention. But again, I'm not sure if we have any active community around these ward councillors, and even if they are, what is the criteria for them to be there? Whether they are selected by the councillor himself, whether the councillor will assign communities to, let's say, villages and towns within his ward to send representatives. This is not something I'm really clear about. But of course, I know there is a linkage between the village development committees and the ward councillor, even if it is not formal, but there is at least some cordial relationships between them. Well, judging from what I have seen in my own community. Yeah.
Yeah, that I understood. The last time I checked, I was opportune to represent the people of Khartoum, okay, because there was this football festival that the Khartoum Ward Council wanted to organize,
Yeah.
okay, on behalf of the Brikama Area Council. Now,
Yeah.
when they call us for a meeting, I understood that each community is represented. There is that connection between the councillor and that of the VDC in each of these communities. Now, the
Yeah.
VDC will send in one representative,
Yeah.
what you call one rep, to the councillor. That is to say, that particular person will be representing the community in terms of the issues related to the development of the ward and the community from the area council or from the council. Now, I think where the linkage or where the problems we lies is the sensitization or the awareness path. Who is representing the community? Now, the VDCs, I am encouraging them. Let us know, all right? I think communities deserve that. You come public and said, all right, this particular person is the one representing us at the councillor's office in our ward, and he or she will be responsible for as our mouthpiece or our linkage between the committee and the council, so that when there is any development, then this representative will report back to the community. But all said and done, this is where I have a problem. You are representing us. We are not getting the report. I think that's why
That's
it's difficult even to have a clear part the issue of what need to be done in a particular community, so that at least the council will, of course, know basically what are we going to spend in this particular community, because I believe that is the problem that we are facing currently.
and then when there's no representation, there's no accountability. If there's no clear
Beautiful.
representation, there's no accountability. So
I agree
I
with
think
you.
I think just like what we have seen, we saw when the COVID funds came at the National Assembly, that Dr. Samate was talking about how some pseudocode names were created on non-existent names and stuff like that. I think when it comes to the whole entire when these corruptive behaviors are about to happen, there is you see that there is a lapse in communication, and also like you cannot connect the dots, because you cannot even get to where you to somebody or who is responsible for what, to really get a clear source, because everything started to become looking really different. So I think like I was asking when you were Usman, when you were away, about the how is the chairman, what are the chairman's responsibility, or what are we to actually account him for, because since he's a champion of fighting corruption, making sure that there's transparency and so forth, how is he handling this on his end, because it's happening under his watch.
Yeah, so as a chairman of the Brikama Area Council, I think Young Kubadaba has a lot of work to do, in a sense that if he is supporting or seeing that money that goes to these interventions are handed over to the councillors, he should stand firm and ensure that these monies are used for the purpose for which they are intended. They shouldn't be used otherwise. But again, and I'll put this in quote, conspiracy theorists would also believe this probably could be a scheme that the Yankuba and his colleagues from the UDP camp are probably using to mobilize funds ahead of the 2026 elections. Now, how is this done? If you're giving me money cash and I'm only coming back to tell you this is how much I spent, this is what I did not spend, and giving you an account balance of what I have when that is not actually what existed, somebody could even say that, okay, probably they're preparing to get more funds, and maybe in 2026, we are even going to see an intervention of, let's say, $4 million into each ward councillor, because we already saw 500,000 being, increased to 1 million, or maybe from 1 million now it could go to $2 million. Who knows? So for us to be sure that the Young Cuba is actually interested in ensuring that these funds are used for the right purpose and not diverted to any other uses, I think all of those comes.
I think we have Sam Ceesay,
Sam,
co-host
yeah,
here.
yeah, we
Sam is
have
back.
Sam Ceesay. Yes. Yeah, okay, Sam, how are you today?
Good. How you guys doing today?
Sam, how are you,
Yes,
brother?
All right. Sorry to interrupt you. I just got out of the game with my son and heading back home now.
Oh, God, very good.
Okay,
very good.
that's fine.
Mr.
Jeng, Mr. Jeng,
adequately. Yeah.
proceed, please. Proceed, please. Proceed, please.
Yeah. So sorry. I think.
Yeah, you can continue.
Yeah, I think he's having a connection problem, because I think the connection is breaking. from his end. Mr. Jeng, you may proceed. I think you're having problem with your connection. Mr. Jeng, are you with us?
I am with you. I'm just having connection issues. I'm with you. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
I
establish
understand.
my connection.
Yeah, you can proceed, please. You can proceed, please. Sam Ceesay, how is the United States?
Oh, it's even though it's cold today, it's a little sunny, so really good.
And Mr. Sawaneh, how is the United States?
Stuck in the house. Barely go. You barely go out because of the weather situation. It's really cold in here.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, we can't
Mr.
even
Jeng,
get the
are we good?
sunshine.
Yeah, so I think I am good to go now.
Yes,
So what I
yes.
was saying, Yankuba as the chairman, if he allows money to be spent on the wards through the ward councillors, then he has a huge tax ahead of him. And that is to ensure that funds are used for the intended purpose. And that way, a report should be generated in each instance on the usage of those funds on the intended projects. What I'm trying to arrive at is, if we are not getting the detailed reports, or if Yankuba by any means just decides to lag behind and just say, okay, these are people that I'm working with and I trust them, that wouldn't be sufficient, because human beings are human beings and we are full of mistakes. As a leader, he needs to step up the game and ensure that those funds are used for the best purpose and that the public gets the proper feedback on the usage of the funds.
I also want to suggest this, Mr. Jeng, the participation of the communities towards this fund that is actually allocated to the wards. I think wards also need to be conscious, because some of the communities are sometimes they tend to doubt, how do we even have access to these monies? Because you don't know how things are even distributed. Because the last time I checked, some of the community are not beneficial because it's only 500,000. When you look at in a ward, you will realize that you have about 7 communities or 8 communities, or so not all communities will have that particular benefit depending on the priority area. Now this time around, for example, your community was in a beneficiary of the 500,000 that was allocated in 2024. Now we have a 1 million that is allocated to our ward. Now this time around, we expect the other community that didn't have the money from the 500, they will obviously be eyeing onto this 500,000, and then they are expecting something or a form of a development that has to come to them. But the question is, are they really ready in terms of taking
Ousman, I think.
Yeah, Ousman. Yeah, Ousman. Would you be able to answer his questions, or you wanna?
Yeah, but I think what he's trying to say is, if you have 500,000 given to 2 communities in this first instance, let's say with the 14 million, now how about the rest? What I strongly believe is, the initial disbursements were just, just a beginning to everything. I mean, that was just a starter, and then we are going to have this continuing, into the future. So if your community did not benefit this time around, probably in the next disbursement, some allocation will be made to your community. But this takes me back to my initial discussion. My initial argument was, the ward councillors should have a consultative engagement with all the communities within their ward. And through that consultation, they'll be able to identify areas of intervention for those communities. Once they have identified that, they will report back to the council, that is Yankuba and his administration, for implementation of such projects, to assist the communities involved based on what is needed, or what is termed as a priority. They will have to define that through their engagement, with those communities. So if it is just money given to the ward councillors, and those ward councillors would have to go around by themselves, decide where to use it. In fact, it is looking like they are helping these communities with the money that they are giving them. They are taking all the credit without even telling them, hey, you know what, we are plowing back what we have collected from you. And we know this is what politicians will do. Because even in my community, when we benefited from the construction of the bakery, one of the VDC members told me our ward councillor said he's going to help us, with some money, and then we're going to top up. So the word help there, makes it look like, they're doing us a favor. Yeah. And this is not actually a favor that they are doing to communities. Rather, they are giving those communities what belongs to them. Because taxes collected should be plowed back according to the local government authority. But even if there is no law specifically stating what should be done, as an authority, when you collect tax, the purpose of collecting tax is to provide public goods, is to intervene socioeconomically, in order to boost consumer welfare.
Yeah.
So
that's why
social
yeah, Mr. Jen, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's why we need education, civic education in our communities. Some of the money raised through taxes that are collected from these communities, they are the money that goes back to these infrastructures, like you're talking about the bakery, the roads, the communication systems, and so forth. But every time the politicians, they use this as their own work, something that they manufactured themselves, and then taking credits for it, so it can be a political scoring point for them. This is we have seen this in even the presidential level coming down all the way. Like in the US here, when you go for a tour, the president has to declare everything more than $100 that is given to him, the president or secretary of state or anything that is given to him on the behalf of the United States. So anything more than $100 need to be declared as a source of a gift or anything towards the nation. So you don't go and say, I this is my money, and then try to use that as a political scoring point. We have seen this, when it comes to the mayors, when it comes to the councillors, when it comes to the the ministers and so forth. So we need real civic education for Gambian people in our local languages, how their money that these politicians brings is not given to the politicians per se. Ousman is a minister, let's say, and Ousman go to Dubai. They don't give it to Ousman because of Ousman. He represents the nation. He represents a certain segment in the government. For instance, like when grants were given, at one point Talib Bensouda came here and I was hanging out with him. The grant was given from one of the European countries about Serekunda road construction. The same grant that the president also tapped into. Now they two system of government, the local government and then the executive power, they tap into one resources, and they told him that we already allocated for the presidents, the president. So now instead of now the president utilizing that to Serekunda areas to road construction, it was a road construction project. Now he used that for something else. And when Talib approached the president, and then this is just from the horse's mouth, and when he said, "Oh, you are looking out for your community. I mean your municipality. I'm looking out for the whole country." So you see, there's a conflict there. So, but the money is there to build roads within this, city sub-region area, which Talib is actually part of. So I'm just trying to bring this up as a way to showcase how, these grants, how they utilize them on their own personal gain, just to be able to acquire a political scoring point. Yeah. But these are the kind of politics that happen in the Gambia. The wrong funds are used for wrong reason, raised for the right reason, and they are allocated or utilized for the wrong reason. And then the people that they are raised for or the grants you are giving for, they don't receive it.
Yeah.
And then the same thing applies to the taxes collected. The taxes that are collected are diverted to something else beneficial to those politicians.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it has always been the case. The politics and politicians would never go out. And if once you want to take away the politics in them, then that becomes a problem. And a lot of politicians have been taking credit for things and even ascribing that to their personal achievements. But in reality, we need to understand that public funds spent on public goods actually need no too much of giving taking self credit. Now, it's true through efficient leadership you can say, okay, through my leadership I have done this that someone did not do. But again, you don't have to make it look like you're doing them a favor. Now, a good example, like I said here earlier, with Yankuba Dabo, he has implemented something that wasn't known in Brikama Area Council. Probably not to my knowledge. Let me say that. If I say it has never existed, then I may lie because I'm only 30 in my middle 30s, but mid 30s. But let me say, for the first time I have heard a chairman coming up with such initiative is with Yankuba Dabo. Yankuba Dabo is the first person I've seen do this, right? For at least in Brikama Area Council. So you could take credit and say, I have done something that nobody did before. I have decided to allocate funds to ward councillors for visible development projects. And that goes to him because it's through his leadership. But what shouldn't be done is to say, I did this for you. They did not do anything for us. They used our tax money wisely. So we need to give them credit for that. But again, it shouldn't look like they're doing a favor or they are helping anyone. No, they are not. And that needs to be everyone, every other politician should
that needs to be clarified. Yeah, that needs to be clarified.
Absolutely.
So let's allow Sam to let's allow Sam to come in because I think we have about another 10 minutes. Then Ousman, then after you can come in because I'm pretty much done. Yeah.
Well, thank you all, and of course, good afternoon or good evening wherever you are. So I won't say too much without taking too much, but I do want to contribute a little bit to what you were saying. First, in the country, in Gambia, we need to know, and what we're doing here is a great thing. Civic education is very important, just like Mrs. Sawaneh said. People need to understand, where funds are coming from their tax dollars and things like that. But most importantly, starting with the president and anybody that works in that government need to understand that they are there for the people. People elected them, and the president appointed some and put them in office, so they work for the people. They are there. We put them in office to do what is right for the country. So anything they do with our funds, they are just doing their job. That's what it is. No credit to them. They're just doing their job. Unless we see someone that goes above and beyond Call of Duty and come up with something that we've never seen before, and do that to really solidify their role in that community or in that position, then we can say, wow, that's a great job. But other than that, everybody needs to the president need to see, and everybody in the government need to see themselves as they are the employers of the people. They work for the people, and the people are the boss. So they need to understand that, have that mindset first. The reason I'm saying this, we can see it even in the ministers. Once they get into position, they think they're big. They think they are doing people a favor. And I think one of you said that, and that is not the case. So what we're doing here is a great thing, educating people, let people know these people are there to work for you. That's it. So number two, in terms of Brikama Area Council, we've all seen and we've all heard from the news and what happened there in the past. I think I want to give one credit to Yankuba. The credit to give to Yankuba here is he has changed things around to go in the right direction, because Brikama Area Council was in the hole and was going in the wrong direction. A lot of corruption, a lot of mismanagement of our funds there. So or taxpayers' funds. So turning that around and doing the right thing for the communities is the right thing to do. So thanks to Yankuba for sticking with the program and for doing what he is there to do and what he is elected or what he's been elected to do. So so that thanks goes to Yankuba for doing that. The other part is community development is very important, and I said this in some of the audios that I released in a couple of days ago, and I said we are where we are today after 60 years of independence because of corruption. Because of corruption, mismanagement of our funds has created Gambia to be where we are. But Gambia being such a small country, today we should have been thinking of something else, not where we are. Today we should not have our inner city roads that rough. I was in Gambia about a year ago, to be, that for our roads to be in those conditions, our communities to be in the conditions they are now, our hospitals, the police stations, the schools, you name it, everything is really bad because, in my mind, because we should have passed this level, and all because of corruption. So if we have leaders that come in and want to do the right thing, we really need to commend them for doing the right thing because that's what they elected for. So, but what Yankuba did in allocating a million to every councilor to develop their area, I think is the step in the right direction. So that's what I wanted to add there.
Thank you so very much, Sam Ceesay.
Yep.
Mr. Sawaneh, we have about 4 minutes to end this program. So I just want to sincerely thank Mr. Jeng for coming up so that we can discuss. Because Mr. Jeng, last time I told you, you will come back depending on what is at stake, so that at least we can have that expert discussion on issues honestly and of course openly without any other reservation. So coming up today to discuss about the economic implications and economic advancement or economic advantages that the 28 million disbursement actually have for the people of West Coast. So coming up and then giving a very honest opinion and then an intervention into issues of how it should be spent and what are some of the modalities that ought to be followed moving forward so that we can have a very conducive and well progressive West Coast. Fantastic from you. And over to you, Mr. Sawaneh now.
Thank you. So I'm gonna just gonna give everybody like a minute or so to conclude. Starting from myself, I think this is a very, very good debate here, discussion here. I will call just to look at every pocket and see where the money goes and why, and ask questions. I always say that my philosophy is always ask questions, because if you don't ask questions, you barely will find answers, because the answers will not emerge just out of the blue. So by asking question and follow up question, you're gonna get more answers. That's why my philosophy and my approach is about asking questions. So I think that's what we just did here. We navigate through the whole entire budget, BAC award allocation of funds, and we were able to get some answers. And then we find out that transparency was an issue, and then kind of like acknowledging or letting the community knows where the money went was missing, and leadership issue and so forth. So we summarize everything. It comes down to those. So moving forward, I think the leadership should definitely be communicating before you go and put more fund out there. Get reports and make sure that we get answers, and let the people who contribute to those funds, or who those funds are allocated for, have the knowledge of it. So I'm gonna say thank you so very much, Saikou Jeng. The economics, again, we have you again, but we will have you more times, I'm pretty sure. And Ousman, thank you so much for connecting us with Mr. Jeng. I think he's part of this platform now, being that he's been here twice. And my co-host Sam Ceesay, thank you again for, even with the difficult times of taking your kids to the games, you are able to also join us. So I now hand it to Ousman, and then definitely Sam can come in, and Mr. Jeng can end. Ousman, any words?
Okay. Mr. Jeng, you can come in, please.
Yeah, so thanks to all of you once again, Mr. Sawaneh, Mr. Ceesay, and Camara. rest assured, I'll always be ready to have these discussions here, because I think we are always supposed to, constructively engage on issues of national development and also create more awareness amongst our people on critical issues that are affecting their lives. So rest assured, anytime the call is made, except if I have a very tight schedule, I'll definitely be happy to be here. But again, back to our main topic, just to round up, what I want to say is first to commend the Brikama Area Council for the job well done in terms of allocating these resources towards something that we have not known before. So therefore, I'm going to give them credit for that. But of course, where I have a problem with is the lack of providing adequate reports on on the activities that have been carried out. So I will advise them, or I will suggest that they go ahead and provide a detailed report on the allocation of the 14 million, which was done in 2024, a detailed one for the public, and also monitor the ongoing implementations of the 28 million, and ensure, in fact, ensure that if a brighter or a more, detailed report is provided to us at the end of the implementation phase. So thanks to all of you for having me once again, and we are in this together all the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Saikou Jeng.
Yeah, thank
Sam
you. Sam,
Ceesay,
your final
you
words, Sam?
understand that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Jeng. We really appreciate your time, and appreciate all of you your time, Mr. Sawaneh and Ousman.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you guys' time. So thank you so much. I think this was a great conversation and discussion. Unfortunately, I had to attend my son's games. These are new games that just started recently, and I wish I was able to attend the full length of the program. But nonetheless, I still want to thank you guys very much, Mr. Sawaneh and Ousman Camara. So thank you so much. I will end here until another time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Ousman,
you.
thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Jeng. Thank you. I think
All right.
Ousman is
Bye
free.
bye.
All right. Take
I want
care.
to see where I can leave the meeting, but I'm gonna make
What do you
change.
want to do?
I mean, I just want to see where I can exit the
Or it should be
meeting.
like leave the studio or something. But I
Okay.
will end it on my end. No worries.
So I'll be able to exit. Okay.
Yeah. I will end it on my end. Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay. Thank you.